Hello everybody, this is Dr. Duncan McCollum and I am coming to you from KSCO Radio, and this is Stepping In, and I am very excited about today's topic. I'm going to be talking to you about diabetes. Is it reversible? So diabetes, 50% of the people in our country are either pre-diabetic or diabetic. According to the National Institute of Health, this disease is reversible in 80% of the people by diet and exercise alone, and they've known this for over 10 to 15 years. National Institute of Health came out with that. Why then is it still rated as one of the #1 causes of disease in our country? Diabetes is, by the way, the #1 cause of preventable blindness, preventable kidney disease. It's the #1 cause of kidney failure in our country. It increases your risk of cancer, of stroke. It causes #1 cause of limb amputation. So if this is such a terrible disease that can be reversed with diet and exercise alone, what is it that we're missing? Why aren't we doing something about this? So today I'm going to talk to you about this subject, but also along with some really awesome new research that's come out in the last couple of years that's helping us understand what we can do about this. So first of all, there was a gentleman who won the Nobel Prize in 2016, Dr. Yoshinori Asumi. And yes, it took me a little while to figure out how to say that name. But Dr. Asumi came up with, he was studying autophagy, a great word, autophagy. It means self-eating. And what he discovered, or what he really researched, was that during times of stress on the body, especially when you're not eating, so famine type of things that you set up in your body is going to break down all the weak cells in the body. So it's going to break down the weak blood cells, the weak immune cells, the weak heart, liver, lung, kidney cells. Anything that's weak and barely hanging on is going to get wiped out during times of stress. It's also going to wipe out the bad microbiome in our body. We have 10 times as many bugs in our body as we have human cells. These things are actually what communicate with the environment for us. They're the things that digest our food for us and create vitamins and minerals that we are able to absorb into our body. So this whole term autophagy really opened the door to understanding why fasting is so good. So fasting is a subject that is the #1 sought after term on the internet right now in the healthcare arena. And fasting, if done right, can be a huge tool to restore health. If you don't know what you're doing and you try it and it doesn't work for you, then you're going to give up on it. But it really is a wave sweeping our country. And I'm just going to make this plug. In January, my office, along with probably another 100 offices across the country, will be doing a 6-week fasting program put together by Dr. Daniel Pompa. He is the leading authority on cellular inflammation, and in the country, he is basically helping us put this together so that we can help save the health and lives of so many people. So getting to diabetes, if we can figure out what the problem is with diabetes and correct that, we'd be doing a great thing. Well, there's a guy named Dr. Fung, Dr. Jason Fung. I know this is going to be backwards, but that's his book, and the Complete Guide to Fasting. And he's a nephrologist that's a kidney doctor that had been treating people with diabetes traditionally for years. And what he found was that they weren't getting well. They were, the medications they were giving them were maybe regulating blood sugar, but the patients were getting heavier and they were getting sicker and they were requiring more and more drugs. So I have an interview that I'll play later on with Dr. Fung about him talking about this whole condition of diabetes and how it is basically the wrong the wrong thing to do is to be treating it with medication and insulin. And basically, here's the deal. This is what he says. If the body's already got too much insulin in it, and anybody who's pre-diabetic has a condition called hyperinsulinemia. That means too much insulin in the blood. So if you're hyperinsulinemic, that means that your body is trying to keep enough sugar out of your bloodstream so that your blood sugar isn't high enough to kill you. So what happens is when our bodies get unhealthy, we are putting more and more insulin from our pancreas into our bloodstream to regulate the sugar. Well, why do we need more insulin? Well, it's a hormone issue. Our cell walls are supposed to be very communicative with insulin. In other words, I like to say one insulin will open the door for one sugar molecule to get into our cells to make energy. Because of the toxic load in our environment from heavy metals that actually come 4 generations down through our mothers, grandmothers, and their mothers, as well as the some 80,000 chemicals that have been produced in our country since the turn of the 1900th century, these chemicals get lodged in our body. And take a look, for you, those of you who live in California right now, we've got more, the smoke is just terrible, and the toxic load in that from those fires is not okay. I mean, it's making a lot of people sick. Kind of the interesting thing is this: you can see this and you can sense this smoke. What you don't see and sense is the toxic load we're getting daily from the water we drink, from the foods we eat, the medications that we might take. There's so many different ways that we're getting toxins, and these toxins get in the cell walls and they stop hormones from working. So insulin is one of the main hormones that our cells are supposed to work with every day. So these cell walls become resistant to more insulin. They become resistant to estrogen, resistant to progesterone, testosterone, and thyroid hormone. 30 million Americans have thyroid problems in our country. So Dr. Fung said in this conference that we were at, and also on the interview that I had with him, he said, if there's too much insulin in the blood, and most of America has too much insulin, why would you give them more insulin? He goes, it's insane. It's not the right thing to do. And he said that in treating his patients, most of his patients questioned him. They would say, his pre-diabetic or diabetic patients would say, if I've already got too much insulin in my blood, why are you giving me insulin? So it does regulate the blood sugar, which looks good on the blood tests. But if you're still diagnosed with diabetes or pre-diabetic, is it really solving a problem? Is it getting to the core of the problem? Or is it just covering up your symptoms and regulating your blood sugar? That's helping you in the immediate, but in the long haul, it's causing more problems than it's helping. So what do we do about this? Well, we got to figure out how to get the toxins out of our body and get those cells communicating again. I kind of think about if just taking a look at how the cells walls work. Has anybody ever been in a family before? Anybody out there? 1 or 2 people maybe? So if you had a family and maybe your mother or your father was mad at you and they were trying to tell you to do something you didn't want to do, pretty soon you're kind of like, oh, I'm not going to listen to them anymore. So the next thing you know, they're yelling and screaming at you to finally get you to do something, and then you still may or may not do it. Well, that's how the cells work in our body. When insulin would knock on this little sliding glass door, open it up and let a sugar in, everything was perfect and beautiful. But now what we're up against is, because the cell walls are so loaded with toxins, and the cell walls are made of oils, two layers of oils, and those oils, when they're healthy, slip open the door, the insulin puts the sugar in, the door closes, and it's a beautiful thing. But now with all the toxic load and the bad oils that we've gotten, the rancid oils that we get, those cells work like rusty sliding glass doors, and they can no longer open easily. So what we need to do is we need to clean up the body, and we need to clean up those cells to reverse this thing called insulin or hyperinsulinemia, too much insulin in the blood. So how do we do this? Well, one of the most important things to understand right now is we've got to clean out our body's ability to detoxify itself. So the liver is the major detoxifying organ in our body. It's like an oil filter in your car. If you never change your oil filter, pretty soon the oil is going to be so sluggish that the car is going to blow up, overheat and blow up. Maybe that doesn't make sense to you. Maybe you've had a fish aquarium in your house and there's a filter that filters the water, and you, at some point, you come home one day and the water is all green and there's green stuff growing on the sides of the glass. You realize you have to clean that filter. Well, you might clean the filter, but you still got the sludge on the glass. So that's where detoxification comes in. So the first thing we need to do to help reverse any kind of health condition, now I'm talking about diabetes today, but really you could put any autoimmune condition in here. Autoimmune means the body is attacking itself. It thinks it's the enemy. So any of these autoimmune conditions like fibromyalgia, rheumatoid arthritis, all of these conditions are going to respond well to cleaning the body out and cleaning these what we call downstream pathways out. So that would be the liver, the kidney, the gallbladder, your large intestine, and all of that stuff is considered downstream. So a lot of us have problems with our digestive system, and because of some of the toxins in our environment, whether it be mold, which is plentiful in Santa Cruz because of the dampness, heavy metals, you get that from mercury in your mouth. We get the lead from, a lot of us grew up at the time where our pipes were made of lead, from the gasoline that's lead, paint that's lead. And a lot of us might think, well, that's all yesterday. We don't have leaded gas anymore. Well, one of the problems with this is, again, all of that stuff lodges into your mother's bones. The heavy metals lodge into her bones. And when she's pregnant with us or you, those bones are dissolved to a degree because we need calcium to make our own little bones. Unfortunately, what happens is everything in that bone ends up in her blood. So the lead, the mercury, all of that stuff, some of the heavy metals that are absorbed in some of the other tissues, end up getting into the umbilical blood and get into the baby. So what we want to do is so that's going to create a problem for us. Now we have our digestive system that may not work right because of the toxins we've gotten in this lifetime, let alone some of those that we've gotten from our mother. Glyphosate, which we've talked about before and a lot of you know about, or Roundup, is sprayed so plentifully on our food crops that this is destroying our digestive systems. It actually puts holes in our digestive system. And it is being spread so liberally on our crops that this is becoming a huge problem in America, because a lot of the other countries don't allow Roundup, but we do, and we're rated 50th in the world for health, so this ought to tell you something. So we have to repair the digestive system, which means we've got to work on this downstream detox pathways, which is the liver and kidney, but we've got to allow the digestive system to get the toxins completely out of our body. So if we have a large intestine or a bowel or a gut, whatever you want to call it, that has damage to it because of these heavy metals and toxins and glyphosate that we've been consuming all this time, anytime we're trying to eliminate something, it's going to get absorbed back into the body. Just think about if I took my hand and I put it in a vat of turpentine and I left it in there for a couple hours. If I took it out, everything would be inflamed, sticky, oozing, all this kind of stuff. Well, I hate to say it, but that's oftentimes how our digestive system or our colon is. We got something called colitis, which is inflammation of the colon. Just look at an inflamed part on your skin, or if you have a cut that's ever been inflamed, that's what it looks like inside your digestive system. Now you're putting food through there that's supposed to be broken down by this bacteria, and then we're supposed to absorb that into our body and make good body parts out of it. Well, this digestive system is so messed up from all these toxins over the time that we can't eliminate the bad stuff because there's nothing working correctly. I mentioned earlier that we have 100 trillion bacteria in our digestive system. These bacteria are supposed to take our food that we put in it and digest it, and then make a nice, healthy, absorbable foods get into our bloodstream, into our cells and our brain and all that kind of stuff. So if our digestive system is unhealthy, if the microbiome in our digestive tract have been invaded by opportunistic anaerobes, opportunistic bad bacteria, which are going to be there when you have all of this toxicity in your body, then we have no chance of getting healthy till we clean that up. So first and foremost, we have to clean up the digestive system, the downstream pathways. And there's ways to do that. Getting back to autophagy, one thing we know in times of stress on the body, it's let the strong survive is basically what autophagy means. It's going to knock out all of the weak bacteria in your body when you starve it. All of the weak cells in your body, the weak liver cells, kidney cells, heart cells, lung cells, are all going to be the first to die, and only the strong survive. So this research that Dr. Usami did on autophagy, and the reason he won the Nobel Prize, is because this is the first step in breaking down a weak body and creating a strong one. So once we have gotten rid of the weak cells, your body's ready to rebuild new cells. So how do we do this? Well, we want to fast, and fasting might scare you. The first time I thought about skipping a meal, it scared the heck out of me. But what we find is when you start to shorten your eating window, so rather than eating 3 meals a day, you eat 2 meals a day, and you do that in about a 6-hour time frame, you're, number one, going to give your digestive system a break. Think about if your hand was swollen and inflamed and infected, and you never stopped digging in the dirt with it, it would never get healthy, and it would get worse and worse and worse. So if your digestive system is inflamed, as I mentioned before, and you never gave it a break, it's going to have a hard time healing. So when you fast for 12, 15 hours a day, you give your stomach a chance to heal. This is huge. It's going to go in and start to repair itself. Also, when you alter the type of foods you eat, we want to stop you from eating these very inflamed foods like the wheats and the gluten and the sugar, and start to eat foods that are easier to digest and healthy. Then your body's going to stop burning this sugar, which burns kind of like a smoky wood fireplace with wet pine in it. So if you had a fireplace in your house and you were burning pine, and you opened the flue, your house would be filled with smoke. You'd be polluted. When you eat actually protein and or any vegetable, any pasta, any grain, nuts, anything like that, it's going to burn like it's going to break down to glucose or sugar. A lot of people don't realize that protein ultimately burns as sugar. The only thing that burns as the other fuel is fats. Healthy oils, healthy fats burn as something called ketones. They burn very clean. They burn like a gas stove. You don't even need a chimney over it. So what we want to do to help reverse this problem that's occurring with the body that might be causing hyperinsulinemia, too much insulin in the blood, and ultimately diabetes, that might be causing autoimmune diseases, and it could be causing just toxicity to where you don't feel well. We want to stop burning this carbon or this glucose fuel that is making us inflamed, and start to burn more of the ketones. When we burn ketones, it's great on the brain. The brain loves to burn ketones. Cancer can't live in it. It actually, eventually, as we're detoxing the body through another method, your body's going to start to clean up. The cell walls are going to be replaced with healthy oils, and then they're going to become more efficient. pretty soon you don't need so much insulin anymore. You can get back to a balanced insulin level, which means that one insulin is going to open that sliding glass door again and let that sugar molecule in, and your body's going to be very efficient. You know, we look for our vehicles today. Everybody wants to have an efficient vehicle, like, you know, it's a hybrid. It burns electricity and then gas, and it's switched back and forth. So that's awesome to have a really efficient car, but nobody even thinks about an efficient body. If you look at the average American right now, 50% of us are overweight, and I think about 30% are considered obese. That's not an efficient engine. Why would you want to drive a car that was getting 8 miles a gallon anymore? You wouldn't do it. It would pollute the environment, and it would cost you an arm and a leg. Well, when you're eating in a way that your body's so inefficient that you're carrying around an extra 5, 10, 15, 20, 100 pounds of fuel on your body that's not being burned, this is very inefficient. So even thinking about having, you know, conserving your body or having an efficient body, you want to get rid of all this excess stored energy. Dr. Fung also talked about fatty liver. And he talked about the fact that when you have a fatty liver, he found that all it is stored fat, stored sugar. When you start to systematically eliminate sugars from the diet and start to do this thing called intermittent fasting, along with a multi-therapeutic approach, which means you need to alter your diet. And we'll be teaching this in January, by the way. My office is McCollum Family Chiropractic. You can call up 459-9990, 831 that is, and or just look up McCollum Family Chiropractic, and you can find out more about what we're going to be doing in January. But basically, we need to start to get our bodies to burn efficiently. So right now, if you have the only thing that burns sugar in our body is the cells. The cell is the ultimate internal combustion engine. And if the cell wall doesn't work right, and it's inflamed, as I was mentioning before, and you can't get sugar in and you can't get exhaust out, you're going to have a sick cell. And that sick cell is going to cause whatever kind of disease you're prone to. And it might be diabetes. It might be some kind of other immune disease, autoimmune disease. So the real key is to clean this up. And you know, there's no time like the present. It actually feels really good to be doing a fast. You actually, your energy level goes up, and there's a lot of different, I guess you can call them myths about fasting. And I'm just going to look at Dr. Fung's book about the myths of fasting. You know, some of them are, if I can see, that puts you into starvation mode. It burns muscle. It causes low blood sugar. It causes overeating. And I can't read the other one. Causes blindness, I guess. But so those are not true if you fast correctly, and if you learn how to do it the way that Dr. Yoshinori Asumi's been talking about, then you can actually rebuild your body. The other book, I know it's going to be upside down for you looking at Facebook, but it says it's the longevity diet. This is by Dr. Walter Longo, and he works for, he's a researcher at the USC in Southern California. And he has basically done research that finds that after 30 hours of a fast, your body's creating stem cells. So stem cells is another one of the really new fads people are looking at doing, but it can cost thousands and thousands of dollars to have them injected in your body. After 30 hours of a water fast, you can create your own, and the body's so smart, it will know where to put those. It's going to know where to put those stem cells. So if you take a look at what Dr. Walter Longo talks about, after a 30-hour water fast, your body's creating stem cells. Also, with Dr. Yoshinori Asumi, who won the Nobel Prize, after a fasting, you're going to break down all the weak cells. It's a perfect thing. You break down the weak cells. Now, all of those parts go to the recycling center. All of those little vitamins and minerals, fatty acids, amino acids are created into new stem cells. Stem cells, they can become anything. Your body's so smart and so intelligent, it's going to send the stem cells to where they need to go, and they can start to rebuild things. Dr. Fung actually said, Dr. Jason Fung says that they're seeing diabetes type 1, the pancreas rebuild itself, and they're seeing people with diabetes type 1 start to regenerate the beta cells in their pancreas that are creating insulin. So this is something that you definitely, if you're sick, if you're on medication, if you have any of these diseases, you don't want to just jump into it. You want to check with your medical doctor and find out if you are candidate to do it. I would also recommend coming to our workshop in January, or just get in touch with my office. In fact, if you, on your cell phone, if you text the number 474747 and enter the word start fasting, all one word, then you will be entered to sent to my Facebook page, and you can get entered into my private group, which we are walking people through this program. Right now, we're giving them information on how to get started so that you can learn how to prepare your body to get healthy. It's something that if you have a lot of inflammation in your body, if you are diabetic, if you do have autoimmune disease, you want to start looking to move your body in this direction, but you can't just jump into it feet first. You need to take a look and see what is causing your inflammation. You know, if you live in a moldy house, which a lot of people do, and you're trying to clean your body out, but you don't get rid of the source of the mold, you're never going to get anywhere. If you're eating American grain that's been sprayed with glyphosate or Roundup before it was harvested to increase the yield, and you're trying to get your body healthy, your inflammation is never going to go down, and you're just going to go down this road of continued disease or dis-ease and eventually into disease. So one of the things we want to do is take a look at what has led you down this path to get you where you are today. It's taken years for your body to break down, and it's going to take years for you to turn it around. I mean, we always tell our patients that it's years, not months. However, once you start down the road to recovery and you learn how to take care of your health or get your health back, you're going to start to do this on a regular basis. You're going to feel so good that you're going to want to continue to do it. I'm just wondering how much time I got left.
You're at 27.
Okay, good. So I'm recording this live right now at KSCO, so you guys are hearing it first. And we're just kind of going through this information on, if for any of you that tuned in late, on diabetes and is it reversible? And the National Institute of Health says it is. We know that if you change the way your body burns fuel, you can actually start to reverse the damage that's being caused by all of this. And so what we want to do is kind of figure out, well, what is going to be my best path? How do I take a look at where my body is right now health-wise, and what can I do to change it? So I think the first thing to do is just write down your diet for a week. Write down all of the food you put in your gullet every day for a week. See how many times you actually put food in your mouth. I've heard from some of the scientists out there that the average American puts something in their mouth 17 times a day. It might be a nut, it might be a couple raisins, but every time you do that, you increase your insulin level in your body. Some of the traditional medicine out there says in order to combat high blood sugar or diabetes or insulin resistance or hyperinsulinemia, whatever you want to call it, you need to eat six meals a day. Dr. Jason Fung, a nephrologist and internationally known speaker, kidney doctor who specializes in reversing diabetes, says that's the wrong thing to do. Every time you put food in your mouth, you spike your insulin. Well, if you're hyperinsulinemic already, which 50% of America is, why would you want to continue to spike your insulin? It's like giving an alcoholic more alcohol and saying this is going to cure your alcoholism. It just doesn't make sense. Another example that he gave is if your car is completely full of gas, which means you've got way too much insulin in your blood already anyway, and you try to put more gas in the tank, it's going to overflow. So where do you do with that? Do you put it in the back seat of the car? No, you want to learn how to efficiently use the fuel that you've got in your body right now. Most Americans have months of stored fuel. And as we approach the first of the year, what I recommend you do is start to research this. Start to find out, hey, how can I start to burn some of this excess fuel I have and see what I can do to turn my body around so it can be healthy again. And one thing you can do is stop eating snacks. You realize that when I grew up and when Billy grew up over here, we had 3 meals a day. We didn't have snacks in between meals. If we wanted to come home from school and have a snack, our mom said it would ruin our dinner. Don't eat snacks. So we were really we ate 3 meals a day, and we didn't eat in between. And you know what? Diabetes was like 10% of the population back then, maybe, if that much. So we're talking about, what, in 1830 or something like that? No, it's 1970. The diabetes level was so low. And what we've done is started to add more and more foods. We have added more and more snacks, and systematically our bodies have gotten sicker and sicker and sicker, to a point we're rated 50th in the world for health. We are only 4% of the world population, and we take 50% of the medications made in the world. And this is not making a difference regarding our health. So our goal at McCollum Family Chiropractic is to help you learn how to take your health back. There's really 3 stressors on your body, and only 3. One's physical. Now that's the nervous system. The brain sends the nerves down through the center of the spine, then they go out from the spine and they go to every cell in the body. And there's only 31 spinal nerves on each side of the body, and then they go to 80 quadrillion cells. If you have pressure on a nerve from an accident, an injury, from constant strain, or sleeping wrong, that is going to cut off the communication from the brain to that body part, and you're going to have a problem. It may not be pain. Less than 10% of the nerve fibers conduct pain. Over 90% of them communicate other things like body position, balance, hot, cold, organ function. So that's the first stressor. The second one is biochemical. It's huge. The biochemical damage that we're seeing today is probably it's the worst it's ever been in our country or in the world. It's not getting any better. So we've got to learn how to, number one, remove as many of the toxins that are already in our body out of our body, and then do whatever we can to eliminate how many more we're getting. And then the third one is our DNA. Okay, our DNA themselves. So if we have physical stress, and then we have chemical stress, it can change our genes. It can change what we call epigenetics. And epigenetics are the switch inside your body that are in your cells that turn on and off these genetic diseases. So if we can pay attention to all 3 of those, the microbiome, which is the bugs in your gut, physical stress, chemical stress, then we can alter and change the way all these things act on our DNA. So that's our goal. That's our challenge. That's what we're up against right now. One thing that's really interesting is if you take a look at your genetic predilection to having a disease versus your twin or your sibling, one family member might get sick a lot quicker than the other one, or a lot earlier, and one may never get sick. My mother-in-law is 97 years old. I had her on the show last week. She's not on any medications. But somebody else might get a cancer or some kind of chronic disease early on in their life. So the way that the scientists explain this is we are all born with a glass container, for lack of a better term. One of us might have a shot glass, another an 8-ounce glass, and another a gallon. That's the container that is able to contain our toxic load. And once that container is filled up and can no longer protect us from that toxic load, it spills over into our body and makes us sick. So obviously the person with the luck of the draw, a bigger load, can do everything. They can smoke, drink, eat whatever they want, don't have to worry about glyphosate, and be healthy as a horse till the day they just don't wake up. The rest of us or somebody else might, be in an area where there's cigarette smoke or EMFs, and all of a sudden their body shuts down and they get sick. So what we know is we can change what's in those containers, especially if you're born with this genetic predilection to get disease quicker. It means your cup is filled up sooner. That's why we want to detoxify. So detoxification is something that a lot of people have tried. You might have done a master cleanse or a 5-day cleanse or a 7-day cleanse or a juice fast. And all these things work, but they never get to the core of the problem. I mean, you need to really confront something that's not only getting the digestive system cleaned, which most of these short fasts do. They actually clean out your gut. They might dump some stuff out of your liver, maybe help a damaged kidneys a little bit like that, or any infection in your bladder. But it's too short to get upstream to the deep tissues where the heavy metals, molds, and toxins, and bacteria and viruses are hanging out. And even above that is the brain. So the brain is our ultimate goal on detoxing. We got to get the toxic chemicals out of our brain, the heavy metals, molds, and especially the mercury for those of us that have had fillings. And even if our mothers' had fillings, that all gets passed down through our blood. So an ultimate cleanse is going to be one that's going to set you up over a period of months to do 3 things. And this is also going to get your body so it can efficiently use insulin. And this is where we're seeing the diabetes turn around, according to Dr. Jason Fung, Dr. Daniel Pompa, Walter Longo, and all these guys, okay? So it might take 2 to 3 months, depending on how sick you are, to repair your liver, your digestive system, like your colon and your bladder. Now, remember, take the liver for a minute. This has been detoxifying toxins since the day you were born, and also even in embryonic period when you have your mother's toxins that you as a fetus are trying to develop into a beautiful human being, but you already get tainted blood from your mom. Your liver's already working on this. And then you're born, and then you may have some vaccines, you may get flu shots, you might live in a very toxic area, you might be eating a diet full of sugar, and if you go to school, they're feeding you terrible food at school. Again, the person with the weakest or the smallest container to hold toxins is going to be the first to get sick. But we want to start to eliminate that stuff out of our diet once we get going. But we're talking about the liver. So the liver is a huge organ. I think it weighs about 7 pounds, maybe more. And it can have toxins that are very deep in it. It might be, they're so deep in the tissue that to think that a 5 or 7 or even a 30-day cleanse can get them out of there doesn't make sense, to the lack of a nicer way of saying it. It's going to take months for that liver to detoxify, especially if you have something called a fatty liver, which means you have fat stored in your liver, which tells me that your liver's been inefficient for so long that it is now storing toxins in it. So we have to give that liver a chance to detoxify and get clean. So that's what it's going to take. It's going to take the proper understanding of the different foods that you want to eliminate, the foods you want to eat, the supplements that actually will go in and pull the toxins out of your liver. We have something called Cytodetox that Dr. Pompa has taught us how to use correctly that will pull it's like a charcoal, but a specific charcoal, very specifically made, that can get into the cells and actually grab onto the heavy metals and the toxins and the molds and the chemicals and pull them out of the cells. So we need to get that liver as clean as possible, because once we start to pull the heavy metals and toxins out of all of the other organs and tissues, that blood's going to actually go through your liver, and that liver has to be clean enough to not let the toxins pass through it back into the body through the blood. So it's a concentration gradient, if that makes sense to you. If you've got a bucket of water and a sponge in it, and you're cleaning the walls, and you never change the water, pretty soon that water is dirtier than the walls you're cleaning. You dip that sponge in the water and you start cleaning the walls, those walls are going to look dirty. Well, when you have a bad liver, a damaged, toxic liver, that's what your blood looks like coming out. It comes out as dirty as it went in, and then you get inflamed. Right now, any scientific magazine you pick up is pretty much going to say the cause of disease is inflammation in the body. The hidden cause of all of these heart disease, kidney disease, lung disease, Alzheimer's is inflammation. That inflammation, 1 minute left?
1 minute left.
Wow, that was quick. Okay, well, we are about coming to the end of my show, but I'll tell you what, you should go to 474747 and type in start fasting, all one word, and we will get you some more information about this. It's been great talking to you guys. I hope this was interesting to you, and I look forward to seeing you in my office and seeing what we can do to help you individually. Please reach out and contact us so we can see what we can do to help you. Thanks a lot, and you guys have a great day.
Okay.